Hello, I'm excited to remind you that Tuesday, November 5th is Election Day. And whether you vote by absentee ballot, at one of our early vote centers, or on Election Day, there are 3 easy ways to vote the partisan section of your ballot. 1, vote.
All right.
Good.
Sorry, that was you know what? Somebody put it in there. I apologize. Go ahead.
No problem. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Week.
Election on November 4th.
Oh, but I think what's more important, Alan, is that you're just reminding us that America is one of 34 countries that actually does have mail-in voting.
Yeah.
So
Yay!
don't let any president of ours tell you otherwise. Anyways, I hope you're all getting ready for the other bookend of our summer, which is Labor Day weekend, after which, of course, none of us will be wearing white again, at least until Memorial Day weekend. But I'm sure we're going to catch some of you violators out there on the streets.
I thought the more important event this weekend was Alan's birthday.
You know, we were going to get to that because I was going to get Steve to lead the singing in Yiddish. So happy birthday, Alan.
We do it in the Stevie Wonder tradition. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
That's not Yiddish. I like
That's not Yiddish.
That's not Yiddish. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Well, happy birthday, Alan.
Happy birthday, Alan. All right. I hope you got big plans for that. I mean, and there's a lot going on in the Detroit area. There is, of course, the Jazz Festival. There is Arts, Beats, and Eats, and there is all kinds of things in the middle.
Hamtramck, too.
And Hamtramck, yeah. Hey, Nancy, isn't your daughter's band playing
Yes,
Monday?
they're playing, I think, on Monday at the Hamtramck Fest. So
and that band is Shadow Show.
Shadow Show, yes.
Very impressive group. I saw them at the DIA. I was very impressed.
Thank you. I'll pass those thoughts along.
where they may be the ultimate portmanteau band by playing a jazz version of Ice Ice Baby. All right. Well, starting with some news that has some affectation here in our Wolverine state, it looks like President Trump is trying to fire one of the governors of the Federal Reserve Board, that being Lisa Cook, a Michiganian, and she has filed suit in the DC District Court to try to prevent this from happening. So I guess 2 things. First of all, can he? And the other is, where do you see this going in his efforts to basically fire half of the government?
I don't think he's supposed to be able to do it, but he's trying to do it. I mean, this is Trump. He wants to control the Fed Reserve. He wants no independence in government. I mean, this is the Trump world. This is Trump.
Exactly.
What else can I say? He's stacking the deck. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here you had a fairly independent and autonomous monetary policy body, one that not only affects us in the United States, but basically sets the agenda for global confidence in the US dollar and in the global markets. And here now you've got willy-nilly. I mean, granted, she's not the only member of the Federal Reserve Board, but he has taken pot shots at wanting to fire, or at least threatening to fire, the chairman of the Federal Reserve after asking who appointed this idiot, and the answer was, of course, he did. But
that's not what he says. I think that's important to say. It's not what he says. I mean, he has criticized Joe Biden for making this appointment. It is amazing how he just changes history.
But Joe Biden was the one who had dementia. Remember that? Yeah. So,
actually, go ahead, Nancy. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the Federal Reserve is, of course, supposed to be an independent body that oversees which is the central bank in this country, and oversees, does an awful lot of work that Wall Street and, by extension, all of our retirement accounts absolutely relies upon. Mm-hmm. And the CDC did the same thing in the areas of public health. And both of them are being gutted by these children who, emotional children, obviously, who think that everything has to be done for the greater glory of one man who is like the world's worst. He's like a toddler on crack and also stupid. And
Yeah.
so it's,
Behind the wheel.
behind the wheel of a very fast car. And so, he's going to drive it into the ditch, and by extension, he's going to screw up our economy, the world's economy. I mean, this is what happened in Hungary, and it was followed by 80% inflation. So, wait until people look at the price of eggs when that hits home.
Actually, Nancy, I think it's a golf cart, not a car. So
whatever.
Does everybody remember and wax nostalgically when the chairman of the Fed was Alan Greenspan? And by the way, I think he was married to NBC journalist Andrea Mitchell.
Wow.
Yeah, you know that?
I know,
Yeah,
he was.
Come on, Joel. Keep up, Joel. And remember, when he said that he was going to raise the rate, it meant something different at home than at work.
Doesn't every nice Jewish boy like Alan Greenspan hanker for a shiksa? So you got Andrea Mitchell.
Actually, I think Andrea Mitchell may be of the tribe. Nancy.
She is okay.
So,
well,
yes,
she may well be. She was.
Yes,
she was always.
yes.
And he was an Ayn Rand follower.
Wait, let me check my app that I've developed about about tribe, not tribe.
That's a great app.
And we have
Fishman wanted to say something.
Fish.
No, I think it's important for all of us to remember, and the good columnists say this. There's never been a time where somebody in politics hasn't had disagreements with the head of the Federal Reserve.
Exactly.
I mean, go back to Volcker. What were interest rates then? And Greenspan. And not everybody loved Greenspan. And the politicians all want things to do that makes the economy better, so he can say, "Hey, look what I did." That's what they all do. And the second thing I think one of you mentioned, Nance, I think mentioned, it's important to note it's not just this country that's going to be affected by all this craziness. This is the whole world that's going to be affected. And if they start putting their money elsewhere, then what? So, these are the kinds of things that need to be discussed and not make it sound like, oh my God, this one woman is destroying the Federal Reserve. And are you kidding me? What are you talking about?
Right.
Alan, apropos the remark about dementia with Biden, I think you have a video on the subject.
All right. Let me.
Donald Trump exhibited yet another massive symptom of potential dementia this week. And he got on Truth Social and said this: "There is a sick rumor going around that fake news NBC extended the contract of one of the least talented late-night television hosts out there, Seth Meyers. He has no ratings, talent, or intelligence, and the personality of an insecure child. So why would fake news NBC extend this dope's contract? I don't know, but I'll definitely be finding out."
I think it's amazing. It's credit to NBC for not being as wimpy as CBS. But I mean, the media, it's now as important as ever to have balls to stand up and push back against this guy. And we've seen so many horrible examples where they've rolled over ABC, CBS, Paramount, whatever. And so credit to NBC there.
And we're not talking about a journalist here either. We're talking about a late night, talk show host, an entertainer, exactly, who does a monologue that he doesn't like. So
it just that Trump loves chaos. I think the more chaos he creates globally, everywhere in the world, he revels in. It creates enormous distractions from one catastrophe to the next. This is the guy's way of being, is to be chaotic and frenetic, and it is globally felt. And this is what he. This is his psychology, man. This is his pathology. He loves chaos. He revels in it.
Bill.
Yeah, I do think, not that I disagree with you at all, Joel, but I do think that there's a strategy here that has been effective for him. He creates these stalking horses, and I think this is what happened when they brought the National Guard and federal troops and federal agencies into Washington streets. That was a stalking horse. They knew they didn't need to do that, but they wanted to create the precedent to be able to now go into Chicago. They firing the Fed chair would have been a very risky thing to do, but if he can fire a member of the Fed, then going after the chair, there's a precedent for it. I think that he's very effective. I don't know if it's him or Miller who comes up with these strategies, but I think they've been using it very effectively.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you have seen this. There's a great letter that I just read from the senator from Wyoming, McCain, who talked about, or Representative McCain, who talked about, hey, Dems, we need a better strategy. She laid out a 6-point plan that I thought was very good. I'll send it around to everybody, and talked about we can't be nice anymore.
Right.
We can't have these nice protests in which we say no kings in America. We've got to create real action teams. We've got to challenge everything he does, everywhere he does it. We've got to take to the streets. We've got to be willing to get arrested. Who would have ever thought that she would have said that?
Well,
Bill,
and that's why Gavin
this-
Newsom is driving him crazy and driving Fox News crazy.
Well,
He's doing a
that's
great
the
job.
thing. I mean, he's gotten under the skin of former Bush 43 press secretary Dana Perino, like nobody has. Bill, was this the letter that was letters from a Minneapolis airport restroom by Larry Craig? You mentioned a Wyoming senator there. So,
oh, I'm sorry. I was babbling because I was blanking on names. At my age, that happens way more than I wish. Alan.
I was going to say, but Nancy mentions Newsom. He's the only one, really. I mean, Pritzker in Illinois is doing some of it, but Newsom is really taking on, and I think he's really carving a niche for himself in the Democratic Party. He's the one standing up, and people feel like we need somebody really being fierce, and he is being fierce about it. And, you know, I think he's sort of carving a niche for the 2028, depending on what happens. But the Democrats want somebody tough. They want somebody fighting this. This is evil shit, and they need somebody to fight it, you know?
And Newsom's a good spokesperson. He's telegenic. You know, he's tic-tac ready. You know, he fits the role, and he can, you know, whoever's writing this stuff for him is a genius, because it is. Well, if you've read, I don't know if anybody's read his, you know, his tweets or whatever. They're brilliant. They're funny as hell. They're succinct, and somebody good is writing this shit. It's wonderful.
I'm sorry.
Well, you know, I think though we ought to be less concerned about whether he's going to run in 2026 or 2028, and much more concerned about whether or not he's the role model for our responses to Trump. I think we've got to worry less about who's going to run and much more about who's going to be our role models for responding to this chaos. Because we have not, the opposition, the 60% who do not agree with Trump, have simply not come up with a coherent and effective response.
No, they're always back on their heels, and part of it is the media. They're still covering Trump like he's a normal guy. You know, he said without evidence, you know, instead of lies out his ass every single time he opens mouth. But anyway,
well, he actually said that Putin fought in World War II. So, you know, even though Putin was born 7 years later. But Bill, on that point, 1 second, Al, if you don't mind, what do you think the demand is from the Democratic side? Is it the pros of Newsom, or are they more interested in the policy at this point? Because it seems as though right now it's the fact that he's standing up with using the same kind of ammo, which is the tweets.
Well, first of all, you can't do one without the other. I mean, look, there's a technique for attacking him, and I'm not sure what the right way. I think Newsom's been much more effective, but we can't ignore the policies. I mean, what we've got to do is unite everyone who he is taking rights away from, and get us all on the same page. I mean, one of the things that has so struck me, I don't know if anybody saw Speaker Johnson on the morning talk show this morning. Listen, We had this terrible shooting. Kids praying in a Catholic school are shot dead. Johnson's still talking about our prayers going out to these children. You know what? Agree or disagree with their immigration program, they decided we're going to pour resources into solving what we view as an immigration problem, and they did it. You know, the self-deportations exceed the number of arrests and deportations at this point in this country.
Mm-hmm.
There are no illegal aliens coming into this country, and most of them are leaving. And I hate the term illegal aliens. I apologize for using it.
Refugees.
Undocumented immigrants. But I mean,
undocumented people.
Don't worry, Bill. Even Genesis called them illegal aliens in a song.
But what have we done about the problem of people shooting our children in schools?
Nothing.
Not a goddamn thing. They don't. And Johnson said, well, you have to remember, we can't do it if we're going to be taking away the rights, the constitutional rights of others. Well, you didn't have that problem with the immigration. You didn't mind getting rid of due process rights. You didn't mind getting rid of all kinds of rights to solve what you viewed as the immigration problem. Why don't you go at the gun violence problem with that kind of vigor? They won't do it. It's futile, but those are the kind of policies that we need to go after and say, look, they're willing to run people who are trying to pick your food and feed us out of the country, but they're not willing to go after people who are killing your children.
Right. We did nothing with Sandy Hook, which should have been it. That should have been the end. We don't care if children die of measles. We don't care if children are shot at their desks. We don't care if they are ripped from their mothers and dragged to a country where they don't speak the language or have any background. We don't care about kids in this country, and it's time, once out of the womb, we don't, as a nation, we're going to do nothing. We're going to do nothing. Nothing. I mean, this is the thing that just has been breaking my heart all week long. And the media has been all over that. Whoever put their camera in front of that 7-year-old boy who had just come out of the school, whose friend was laying on top of him and got shot. And they interviewed that kid and showed it over and over again.
Yep.
We don't. And it breaks. I look at my little nieces and nephews and I just want to scream and cry. We don't care about kids in this country, and we're never going to do anything about guns. I don't see it ever happening.
No, we made our blood-soaked bed. Now we have to lie in it. And it's just,
they have to lie in it.
Yeah.
I was going to say that when America loves its children more than it loves its guns, then maybe we'll have something. But it's just mind-boggling. We thought Sandy Hook, that was it. That was going to be a tipping point. That was going to be, where America was really going to address this problem. Whether, look, yes, it's guns, availability of guns. This guy just, went on and got a gun. He went and
he got many guns.
Several.
He got several guns, all legally.
Not a problem. And I've covered
in Minnesota, which is
covered so many of these things where these guys go and in university in Virginia Tech or whatever, kid goes down the road, he buys a few guns before, a couple of weeks before the shooting without any issue at all. And it's like, we're not going to stop every single one of these, and it's hard to quantify how many we prevent, but we can prevent by having these people having it so easily. Buy a gun. There's so many societies where you're not allowed to buy a gun, and there
are no guns to buy.
And people say it's too late. There's too many. Well, you got to start somewhere to turn off the spigot. And if it's the AK-47s at first, we can't even ban those. Those weapons.
Well, even strict constructionists on the Supreme Court somehow or the other managed to completely elide the first clause of the Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being what is. But here's what's interesting is that in this case, his manifesto was up on YouTube.
And don't call it a manifesto.
Again, we should put rules for that. How long was it? I didn't even read it. How long?
I was just going to say, Ted Kaczynski wrote a manifesto.
That's a manifesto.
This was just a collection of notes and
no manifesto.
And letters to his friends.
Okay.
I want to be a strict constructionist on this.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy. So the three hybridized sonnets that the gunman had posted on YouTube, this was out there, and apparently it seems as though there were monitoring devices by Department of Homeland Security to check social media and the internet for what would be seen as the possibility of imminent lawless action. In comes Thomas Fugati, a 22-year-old former Trump intern, who he then elevated to the position of being in charge of counterterrorism and terrorism prevention at the DHS, who, when he came into his role, gutted the staff and personnel of that particular agency by 75%. Which meant that it completely hobbled the ability for people to be able to monitor any kinds of threats that might have been out there. So that's one thing to consider.
It's both domestic, and you look what what the CIA is doing. I mean, our national security. I mean, it's happening internationally, foreign, domestic. We're cutting our best. I mean, our intelligence system is god awful. Gabbard's getting rid of people willy nilly. This is good. These are the concrete manifestations of destroying institutions that are there to protect us. And this is one of the concrete manifestations. There are going to be worse. I just fear if there's a pandemic, what is going to happen then? I mean, we're just, these aren't little. This is significant. There's going to be more significant loss on a greater scale is what I see because of this incompetence.
Bill, I'm sorry, Alan, go ahead.
When we talk about gun violence and stuff like that, I mean, they say they're like, oh, they're so upset about it, but they take away money from ATF, which traces their trace gun programs. There's so many guns out there that they could be tracing back to people to trying to seize more guns. The ATF is the NRA does everything to sabotage ATF. They go years and years without a permanent director, and they pretend like they give a shit about all these kids getting killed every fucking month.
In my opinion, though, the real hypocrisy, their own words reveal the real hypocrisy. Johnson this morning said, "This isn't an issue about guns; it's an issue about mental health." And what did that big, ugly bill do to mental health funding?
Right, exactly.
They're not willing. Even when they say this is the problem, they're not willing to put the time, the energy, or the resources into that. They don't give a shit.
No, they don't.
Let's make it real clear. They don't care if kids get killed. Right. Kids aren't voting. They don't care. They're not going to do anything about it.
Plus, they love to cling
to this that out.
This bullshit fantasy that they have that when a mass shooting breaks out near them, they are somehow going to be able to draw their weapon and with the Clint Eastwood dead-eye dick accuracy, draw down on the bad guy in a crowd of screaming, bloody running people and somehow take him out with a single shot between the eyes.
All the kids of Uvalde.
Not only are you right, but there's a solution. And I'm good. Steve's been saying this for years. Let the civil lawyers out at the gun manufacturers. Yes. You would solve this problem in no time.
Something.
You're right.
Let them have all the guns they want, but they have to be safe guns. They have to meet all these requirements. Mm-hmm. This stuff, they've had this technology for years. They've got the ability to have a fingerprint where nobody but the person who purchased the gun legally could possibly shoot it.
Yeah.
How many guns
cars
are using that technology?
There's so many. You're absolutely correct. It's silly. It's frighteningly silly.
I would say, to mention what Nancy was talking about, their fantasy of having somebody with a gun suddenly show up there, and it's bullshit. It's probably 98% of the time nobody has a gun. They had a gun at the Walmart stabbing outside of Traverse City, where a guy had a gun who drew the gun on the guy with the knife. But that was a rarity. I mean, like I say, 98% of the time, we never, ever have anyone with a gun on the scene. They've got guns at their homes. They're killing each other. There's domestic violence all the time. There's accidental shootings with children playing with guns, but the guns aren't where they're supposed to be. So it's all bullshit.
Well, on the point of deploying troops to Chicago and possibly other places, Bill, I think we saw the same interview with House Speaker Mike Johnson when the journalist, showing a rare amount of temerity, asked him about his own congressional district, which includes Shreveport, Louisiana, which has a far higher crime rate than does even the nation's capital, where such troops have been deployed. And it seemed as though Johnson had two answers: that, well, there's problems and we'll get to it maybe, or worse, saying it's not my call. So it seems as though leadership has certainly been on hiatus for a while, even when it comes to one's own congressional district. I found that to be really interesting.
I really thought he was going to say, well, I've got to figure out what the king wants me to do on that one. It was a befuddling interview. I don't think I've ever heard more nonsensical answers to, I thought, very good questions.
So Allan,
the interview was good.
Allan, speaking of paying homage to the king, I think we have a video that might remind some people of Camelot and going around.
I was going to try to describe for you just how sycophantic this cabinet meeting today was. How much it would make North Korean leader like Kim Jong-un or Russian President Putin blush.
As we approach Labor Day weekend here, this is just such a great opportunity really to recognize your leadership as a true champion for working people.
Everyone knows there's no stronger advocate for hardworking American families than you, sir.
Mr. President, it's pretty great to celebrate Labor Day with a builder who loves labor.
Mr. President, I invite you to see your big, beautiful face on a banner in front of the Department of Labor, because you are really the transformational president of the American worker.
The average family and individual that lives in this country is safer than they've been in years because of what you've done.
Our country has never been so secure thanks to you.
You have breathed life back into the profession of law enforcement.
Your tireless campaign and your relentless messaging made people realize the American dream isn't dead.
Democracy is. Democracy's dead.
That was like his first campaign, his first cabinet meeting in his first term was like that, because I still, it is burned into my brain, the picture of Mike Pence, that smarmy talk radio host, just, you have made America great again. It's just, and they all did the same thing. It was, I guess now they just do it for the whole meeting. So,
I want to know if they have mirrors in their house, and when they go in and look in the mirror, what do they see? That's what I'd like to know for all of these people, because I only read about it. I had not seen what they just showed there. I just read about it. I don't watch the television, But to sit there and say things like that, and then go home and have to comb your hair and look in the mirror and say, is that really the guy or the lady I am? It's just beyond my comprehension.
Maybe Steve, you got to ask the question, how do they look at their children?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Christie, can't look at her dog. We know that much. Barb.
It's Labor Day weekend. And that building with that picture on it is the Francis Perkins building for labor. And Frances Perkins was a young woman in I did a little history for you. In 1911, Frances Perkins was having lunch with friends, and they heard a lot of fire trucks, and they went to see what it was, and it was a triangle fire. And she stood on the sidewalk and she watched young women mostly leap out of the window and smash themselves on the sidewalk to try to avoid the flames. And that changed Frances Perkins, and she became the first Secretary of Labor in the United States. She fought for her entire life for that. And it made me sick to see that. It's like, that's like, for someone like me, when I go to New York or when I go to DC, I like to go by that building. I like to know that it's there. And he doesn't give a single, he cares as much about workers as he cares about children. I think historically, to tear these things down is a bad sign for the future, because that building every one of these things should mean something. They should all mean something. And every worker is in danger right now in this country. And that group of assholes kissing his ass, oh my God, that just made me sick.
It is.
So me and Francis Perkins are very mad right now.
All right, Allan.
Also, during that meeting, he was bragging about all his tariffs and everything, how that was impacting the auto industry. And he said there were 18,000, since he's taken office in 6 months, there's been an increase in car production domestically, 18,000 more cars produced per month. And that the real number is, and the Free Press did something, and I did something, and I reached out to the guy they talked to. It wasn't 18,000 a month. It was 1,000 cars for a 6-month period, or something like 166 cars per month. And what he had, instead of 1,000, it would come out, his calculation would come out to 108,000. I mean, the guy just throws out numbers, and the guy, the auto analyst who was exchanging emails with, said, I don't know. He says, usually someone finds a number and they just misinterpret it. But he says, I couldn't find any of that.
Do you remember when he said prices had fallen by 1,500%? I mean, so he pulls these numbers out of his ass, and nobody says, and he's lying. He lied about this. He made up a number, and that's what I mean when I say we don't know how to cover this guy, or we know how to cover, but we're afraid to.
You're not going to do it.
No.
But will we know how to cover
the next about guy? It? The problem is that people. I had lunch with a Republican, wealthy Republican, maybe a week ago. He says, I read the New York Times, and every day there's 2 stories about Trump. And I say, that's the problem. He is doing bad things every single day, and people don't want to read about it anymore, but he's still doing them. He's desensitized America to all the crazy shit that he does every fucking day.
Yeah.
Are they reminding everyone of his cognitive decline? Are they talking about how he's clearly, his brain is leaking out of his ears as he sits there?
And he's ill.
They're treating him seriously, as if he's a serious president.
Allan, you didn't ask him what? Just 2?
Usually a live whatever that.
It seems like a quota. I mean, Maggie Haberman usually writes at least 1, I would imagine, a day. Well, right. One of the things that I think also, Bill, that Speaker Johnson was asked in the interview today on, I think it was on CNN, was trying to explain the dichotomy of President Trump threatening to sue California for redistricting, and yet at the same time encouraging Texas to do the same. So on this idea about redistricting, is there a limit? Because I think someone then, I think it was the reporter, was citing other states, and in fact asked the question, where does this stop? Steve.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, back to mute. Oh, there you go. Go ahead, Steve.
Right. Blame it all on the Supreme Court, as we do with so many of these things, when they refuse to get in the middle of it.
Right.
And their rationale, I mean, this guy Roberts is going to go down with Roger Taney as the number 2 worst Supreme Court Chief Justice in the history of this country. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the answer to your question. The answer is, if the courts don't step in, then you're going to leave it to politicians. Whether Newsom pulls it off in California, okay, fine, I'll pull it off in California. When these guys do it in Texas, you have to have the rule of law. And we rely on the Supreme Court to be the ultimate arbiters of that. And when you have a court that's done with, we were talking about guns before, how they twisted and tortured the law to allow all this gun shit going on in the Second Amendment. It's the same thing here. So I don't really think there's anything you can do if the courts are unwilling. If the courts are just going to stand back and say, oh, yeah, go ahead, do whatever you want. It's none of our business. Think about that. Where would we be? Would we ever have overturned Plessy versus Ferguson? I mean, down the road? I mean, come on.
And I mean, Steve, I think has hit the point for me. But what has happened here is that the guardrails are simply gone. It's not just the court. The legislature is not being a co-equal branch.
Mm-hmm.
The judiciary is not being a co-equal branch. He's in control of all three. And, you know, I heard him, I think it was last week, say, you know, I'm not a dictator, but a lot of people in this country think maybe that's what we need.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of people are saying, they come up to me
a lot
with
of people
tears
are
in their
saying,
eyes, and they say, sir, we need a dictator. Right, yeah.
Oh, by the way, I really apologize for this. I didn't introduce everybody, but you should know, because this is basically the OG. We have our troika of attorneys, Steve Fishman, Joel Sklar, and Bill Seikaly. We have labor and community activist Barb Ingalls. We have veteran journalist Nancy Derringer. And of course, we have co-founder of Deadline Detroit, Allan Lengel. Steve.
Consistent with what Bill's saying, though, I give a lot of credit to a lot of these individual United States District Court judges, in addition to a couple of the circuits that have made good fight. It's really the Supreme Court. You're going to have your outliers in trial courts. It doesn't matter if it's a 36th District Court or if it's in the United States District Court in the Eastern District of Michigan. But the Supreme Court is the one who is screwing everybody. And they're doing it knowingly. We can't say that they're not smart. All of them got fancy degrees, and all of them, you know, they can spout off on all kinds of arcana about the law. But they're the ones who are allowing this, and that's where the buck has to stop. You can't blame it on the trial judges or the district court judges or even the courts of appeals, because a lot of them have made really fine rulings. It's the Supremes that have screwed the people that came in front of them and have screwed the public in general. That's I don't know any other way to look at it.
The most corrupt court. Yeah.
So, Steve, on that trajectory, President Trump has threatened an executive order to ban flag burning. And while Texas versus Johnson already decided that back in, I think, 1986, there is the possibility that this then could be litigated or relitigated, and there could be a court composition right now that might then overturn Texas versus Johnson, given the fact that they don't seem to care much about stare decisis and past precedent.
Yes.
Well, it's not just that they don't care about stare decisis. The thing here, if they do that, what courts have to always remember, it seems to me, is that the shoe doesn't always stay on the same foot. Okay, so you start banning free speech, and now the politics turns around, and you decide that all these crazy right-wingers, every time you say anything bad about the president, who's a Democratic president, it's a crime or something like that. I mean, I think people don't recognize that at times. I think it happened with Harry Reid, you know, in the filibuster. Yeah, it's fine while the Democrats are in charge, and then when the Republicans are in charge, look what we've been stuck with because of that. And it'd be the same thing there, I think, Saeed. I think that's they've got to think about the effect of it. It's not always going to be the same as it is now. And if they're all love those right-wing people, do they really want them to be prosecuted or to be brought to court because they're, you know, saying whatever they're saying about the liberals? So that's the thing I think might keep them from doing something as crazy as that.
Yeah, Joel, do you think that people on either side really look past the next tweet that they read, though? I mean, no. I understand, Steve, what you're saying, but in reality,
no. Nor does this president, right? Everything is a short-term bump, essentially. You know, that's what it is. No, there's no foresight in this, and if there is foresight, it's toward an end that is going to lead to, again, chaos and a dictator essentially declaring that everything's chaotic. I broke it all, but it's all chaotic. And now I'm the one who's got to fix it.
Well, and don't discount the erosion of a certain, I guess you'd call it the national psyche in a lot of ways. I am shocked every day at how many people have tuned everything out. They just like, I can't do it anymore. I just can't. I can't pay attention to this. You know, just let me know when I need to react to, you know, when there's a tank rolling down my street or something like that. They can't watch the news because it upsets them, so they don't watch.
It makes you anxious. I mean, everybody's in this avoidant pattern, which you really can't avoid. You just can't. But everybody's trying to avoid that anxiety because when I read it, I get anxious. I get, it's like, oh my God, what's happened today? So,
exactly. And so, and I've spent my career marinating in upsetting news. So it doesn't bother me. I mean, it bothers me, but I can handle it. But when you have a populace that's like that basically shrugs their shoulders and says, I can't worry about this stuff all the time, then you have Russia, because that's how Putin stays in power. There's just people over there who say, what can you do? And they've been, their parents and grandparents were shaped by the Communist Party. They've been shaped by, what came after, which was a brief thugocracy, for lack of a better word. And then, Putin, which is essentially the same thing. And it's like part of the national character now for more than a century. What can you do? So they just do whatever.
So once upon a time, we got rid of Barzini, Tattaglia, Cunha, Slacci, Mo Green. They took care of all,
I settled all the family business.
and now we've got former NSA's John Bolton's house being raided, and it seems now it might well be former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. So and Chris Christie is an interesting situation because he was sycophantic to Trump for a while, but I think just a few days ago, apparently he was critical of Trump on some news show, and it probably seems as though Trump was watching. And now the Eye of Sauron is on here. And it seems as though this kind of vendetta strategy, again, is being seen by the media as almost completely normal, if not expected. Where's the outrage? Yeah, Steve.
Whoops.
Oh, you got to go on. You're mute.
We've been muting him. Yeah.
There's been
Go
noise.
ahead, Steve.
Whenever he's home, there's noise.
Okay, I'll play golf and then I won't be on. All right.
No, we love to have you on. I just say when you're from your office, there's never any background noise, but when you're home,
there ain't nobody here and there's no noise. But in any event, I think there's a big distinction just from what I've read. Again, we can go by is what we read. I mean, we read it in a legitimate newspaper. But Bolton's situation, I have to say, I don't know what the actual truth of the matter is, but it appears that during the Biden administration, they were still proceeding with this investigation. He may very well have leaked security documents that he shouldn't have done. The Christie thing, that's just lunacy. I mean, first thing, the statute of limitations is way past, and they already investigated all that stuff in New Jersey about closing the road and all the stuff that he did. That to me is a different. That's Trump at his absolute worst. Bolton, he's still at his worst because he's always at his worst. But I wonder what really happened with Bolton. I really wonder if he did and he rushed to write that book. And I don't know if you guys read this, but I read some interviews in the Washington papers of his. This guy sounds like one of the biggest assholes in the history of the world. They said he never talked to anybody. He wouldn't acknowledge anybody's existence. Unbelievable. This guy. So I don't think anybody's feeling sorry for him is what I'm saying. I doubt anyone's feeling sorry for him.
Well, I remember John Bolton from the Bush, the recount and the Florida business when he was, we're from the Bush team. We're here to stop the count. So, I mean, I don't waste a lot of sympathy on John Bolton, but at the same time, you're talking about these vendettas, but is anybody else made very squeamish by the fact that Trump seems to enjoy pulling Secret Service protection from people that would normally get it? Like this morning, he pulled it from Kamala Harris, and Kamala Harris is about to go on a book tour. And it's almost like he's telling his people, go ahead, she's out there without any backup, take a hit. And then I can say, well, she didn't care for Trump, or some other nonsensical bullshit. But anyway.
I was looking that up this morning, and actually, the requirement is, although they have the right to extend, the requirement is only a VP only has protection for 6 months after office, which so legally they could do it, but a lot of times they extend it. I think they extended with Pence, and in these crazy times, I mean, what happened to Nancy Pelosi's husband?
Exactly, yeah.
You would think you know, and she's one of the targets of the right, you know, one of the focus of hate. And so you would think, just out of being overly cautious, you would continue.
Well, or a kind of professional courtesy that exists in this very small yet august group of people. I mean, there's only been 47 presidents of the United States, and I don't know how many vice presidents, but it seems like it's a fairly small group, and that they would not only look after one another, but I'm not sure if the public would necessarily find that to be an overreach of taxpayer expense.
All the money that we spent on the fucking Trump family. I mean, making sure Ivanka had somebody to walk with her and protect her gigantic house in DC, and all the other kids and the extra wives and the ex-wives and all that stuff. I mean, we certainly spent a lot of taxpayer dollars on the Trump
family. We can build a ballroom, and we can go to Hobby Lobby and buy as much stuff that we can paint gold
shit on the walls. Right?
Look, they have they have retreats for the presidents and stuff like that. He goes to his Mar-a-Lago or whatever, to drag the number of Secret Service agents there who have to get hotel rooms. That the
no, Allan, I'm sorry. They actually, Mar-a-Lago bills the Secret Service.
Yeah, they do. They
for
the top rack rate for that.
Every Secret Service agent gets a room, and the government has to pay for it to, and so Trump is making a shitload of money every time he goes up to whatever, Westminster or whatever, wherever he goes to any of his clubs, he has to drag a whole entourage of people.
He never goes to Camp David. I mean, he might see a free there. It's like,
sure, he thinks it's gross.
Yeah, he hates the outdoors. I mean, you saw what he did to the Rose Garden. I mean, Jesus, the place looks like the patio seating area at a Culver's or something. I mean, it's awful.
Without the delicious hamburgers.
Without the
butterburger. Well, no. To be fair, Barb, he's pretty particular to the fast food that he ingests.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a consistency to create the cankles.
Yeah.
So closer to home, a report alleges misconduct by the Hamtramck police chief, as well as another officer, and also the city manager. Police chief being Jamil Al-Tahiri, the officer being David Adamczyk, a real good Yemeni name there, and city manager being Max Garbarino. Allan, I know you've done some extensive reporting in Hamtramck. What have you found?
Yes, I mean, the chief has the allegations. The city council hired a private law firm to investigate, and they came up and they recommended that the chief, the police officer, and the city manager be fired. And interestingly, the chief some of the things were destroying evidence. He drove a city-issued truck after drinking multiple times. He pressured officers to help him in custody dispute. They were getting 911 calls to his house, and the chief pressured the officers to lie on the police reports to help him in his custody dispute. The officer was privately recording people to try to, advance his career. And the city manager was faulted, which is kind of funny. He was faulted for delaying suspending the police chief and the officer. So they said he took too long. But ironically, Mayor Galib put the city manager on a leave because he said he reacted basically too quickly. And so the place is a fucking mess. And the mayor is leaving now. He's waiting to get his confirmation as ambassador to Kuwait. And I don't know financially, but at least the place is just full out scandal in every way. 2 council members have been indicted for fixing, for tampering with election results using ballots, mail-in ballots. They're buying them from naturalized citizens, filling in the ballots themselves. But anyways, that's Hamtramck.
Well, I think Mayor Galib just reported that he's come back from Washington after having meetings with Stephen Miller and Marco Rubio for the people of Hamtramck and try to bring resources here, while he simply also is still awaiting not only appointment but confirmation hearings for being ambassador to Kuwait, as the president had nominated him for that. So seems as though he's been a little bit busy. In other Michigan news, we've got Joel Rutherford, the former chair of the Michigan Democratic Party for the 10th Congressional District, bringing forth an ethics complaint against gubernatorial candidate and current and incumbent congressman from Michigan 10, John James, on alleged federal and congressional ethics rules being broken, particularly in using taxpayer resources for his run for governor. Apparently, James was handing out backpacks for school kids, but they had, which would be an official, I suppose, event that he was doing, but it had signs saying James for governor and the possibility of using other resources that were not from his campaign.
Oh, God, there's something gross about that. Oh,
yeah. Did anyone get a backpack, by the way?
He was also using staff members, I think, from his office here.
So I mean, anything that's going to come about from this, slap in the hand or nothing?
It doesn't strike me as like the crime of the century. It's more just a smarmy crime, a smarmy, which fits with his smarminess. I mean, I've said this on this show many times. He's the emptiest suit that ever emptied, and that's it's that cheap smile that he does, and when he goes on Fox and he rails and he tries to sound real mad and tough, and then and then of course we have Betsy DeVos's website, Michigan Enjoyer, which is basically straps the knee pads on every time that guy comes within their no, it's ridiculous. I mean, they're I went shooting with John James. I'm sorry, it's awful. But anyway,
I'll say, look, the House and the Senate ethics committees and stuff like that are total bullshit. Nothing will happen to this guy. This is such a minor thing. I've seen major things. I did a story with Dana Priest, a reporter at the Post, on Senator Shelby, who was chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, leaking information about a wiretap on 9/11, and nothing happened to him. He should have got indicted. And, the Justice Department was then, Christopher Wray was the Deputy Attorney General at the time. He passed on it because it would have changed the balance of the Senate had something happened to him. And that was a major to-do. I mean, Dick Cheney was screaming about who leaked it. And we outed Senator Shelby on it, and nothing happened to him. So something as minor as this, absolutely nothing will happen.
Hey, Allan, do you think that they would have gone after him before he switched the side of the aisle? Because remember, Shelby used to be a Democrat,
right?
And he very famously, I think in '94, when Gingrich came into power as the House Speaker, switched over.
It's very possible.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry, Nancy.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. Lastly, speaking of Michigan, former State House Speaker Joe Tate has endorsed Haley Stevens for the Senate bid. Is this going to? And I see, Barb, you're already looking at the sky. How do you see this playing out? Do you think it's really going to help? Is it even needed? Do these endorsements even matter?
I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know. I mean, I think she's really another empty politician. I think she can stay in her seat. There's a seat that we've got. She won it fair and square. Let's let I'm personally I am a big fan of Mallory McMorrow. I would be really happy if Abdul El Sayed, if the world changed completely and he was able to win. I think that would be great. I think that Haley Stevens takes so much money from AIPAC. I know what she's going to say every time she opens her mouth. And personally, whatever, Mallory McMorrow for Senate.
I think it'll be interesting, Barb, to see how El Sayed does after the New York City mayoral race with Zoran Mamdani. That if he creates space for not only sort of ethnically and religiously, but also politically, if that's something that's going to have momentum across the country.
I was a big supporter of him when he was running for governor. I really liked him very much. I like his policies. I think he's a great guy. I just really, it's almost practical that I went with that I'm going with McMorrow instead. But I'd be thrilled. That would be great. Either one of them, I'd be very happy.
He's got Bernie Sanders and AOC as endorsements.
Yes, he does.
Somebody forwarded an email to me from this group weeks ago of Saeed believing that he can essentially, that Haley Stevens and Mally McMorrow will split the vote of like moderate centrist Democrats, and that he can essentially drive a truck right through that opening and to the nomination. But I don't know. I'd like to see Mom Dami win too, and I think that would be, especially who are the Republicans going to put up? Mike Cox.
I think so right now.
He's the leading candidate.
Well, isn't it? No, Rogers, isn't it?
Rogers. That's
I'm sorry.
Rogers. I apologize. I get my mics mixed up.
Yeah, Cox is running for governor.
He's running for governor, right? So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, he's way smarter and way more charismatic, but then he's also, a Muslim, and sometimes that's a problem for people, which is going to be interesting with Manda.
You pronounce that like you do Tard.
I remember when I did a story years and years ago on Todd Corser and interviewed his mother, and she pronounced it Muslims. Is that where the Muslims live? Yeah.
My favorite pronunciation, Nancy, is when someone's like, "Are you one of them Islams?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all of them." Hey,
Abdul does go everywhere in the state. I just want to say he really does go everywhere, and he talks to everyone, and I think that takes big, giant ones. So
yeah. Okay.
All right, Alan, let's go to the last segment then.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the week.
Okay, Steve, how's it looking?
Mine is pretty simple, and I happen to have my New York Times right here. My Schmuck of the week is RFK Jr. yet again.
Oh, yeah.
The headline, Kennedy insisted CDC chief agree to his vaccine policy. The lady who's fronting him off, basically. This guy, every time I read anything or hear anything about him, I just want to have Dr. Cassidy by the shirt who voted to confirm this asshole and believe the bullshit that he told them in private, right?
Yeah.
So he's my Schmuck of the week, and Cassidy is the co-schmuck because, again, he's the one that let him get this job.
Right.
You took the words right out of my mouth, but I have a backup schmuck, so there.
Well, I mean, he fires the CDC director, Susan Menares. The new acting director is actually RFK's deputy, Jim O'Neill, who has very close ties to Silicon Valley poobah Peter Thiel, who seems to have sort of sidled into the role once held by Elon Musk earlier in this, at least more openly, with the influence that he has on this particular administration. So, yeah, there is some serious morale issues at CDC right now. Hey, Alan, is Bill with us, or is he?
He's stepping out for a second.
Okay.
Maybe
do we need to call 911? Do you think he's okay? There he is. Okay.
Barb.
I was gonna go with RFK too. A friend of mine who works in the food service industry went to get his COVID shot, and he found out he was not covered anymore. He went to CVS where he's been going for years, and I think this is like everybody else, this is a person that we really want to have a flu shot. We don't want people in food services, but I'm gonna go with Matt Hall of Michigan, who I could go on about Governor Whitmer too, but I thought it's unbelievable. It's a Michigan version of the Big Beautiful Bill. And it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt us even before the national budget goes. I think he is a big piece of shit, and he got that through after holding us all hostage, and the Michigan Republicans, vile as usual. At all.
Okay, Joel.
I'm going to go. This is football season. I'm going to go with Jerry Jones, who just traded Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers for really a bucket of balls, not even much. And this guy's a generational talent on defense who can win you a Super Bowl. This guy's an incredible talent. So we're going to see him at least 2 times a year, if not 3. And I hate Jerry Jones. Send him to the Packers. It's like Reggie White, man, like 30 years ago. This guy's transformative. So he is my schmuck because he's messing with my Lions. And if Goff gets hurt, we're done. And this guy can kill Goff. So wow, go ahead. That's my schmuck.
Joel, are you gonna like call for Campbell to like bring back what's his name, Dominican Sue, so that he can put the hurt on him?
I go back deeper. Bubba Baker, kill him. Bubba Baker. Back in the day was terrifying.
Wasn't it William Gay who like put out the Green Bay Packers quarterback?
Yeah, it was the latest hit I've ever seen. The pass was incomplete for like minutes. And he just railed him blindside and drove him into the turf. It was at the Silverdome.
It was at the Silverdome.
I stood and cheered. I loved it. That was the greatest late hit I've ever seen.
This mild-mannered liberal, the psychologist.
So happy.
He loves.
My father and he talked about screaming and joy. Yeah,
he loves socially approved violence.
They had to tape his head and every other part of him down onto the board and carry him off the field.
I think it was like his last name was Hickey. Was the quarterback? I was James.
Was it Hickey? I think it was Dickey. I think it was Lynn Dickey.
Right, Lynn Dickey. Right, you got it. And that was just a brutal hit. Oh, that was great.
Love it. Was so great.
Well, all right. I'm glad that we got Joel all excited for Labor Day weekend.
Wait.
Yeah, Steve.
I want to tell you guys one thing, that a hit like that, and everybody remembers that hit, but some of those big hits in football, when my son was coming up and he was playing basketball like his father, we'd go to a game and we'd see a hit like that, and I'd look at him, Eric, that's why we play basketball.
It's true.
Try being that spectator at the Masters and getting hit in the jewels. Tell me that's not a contact sport there, Steve. All right, Nancy.
Okay. Maybe because Bill has been MIA for the second half of the show, nobody made the obvious joke that came to me earlier this week, which is, of course, that a prosecutor can indict a ham sandwich. And in the case of the DC prosecutor, Jeanine Pirro, or U.S. attorney, I guess she is, U.S. attorney, she could not indict the ham sandwich, or at least not the ham sandwich thrower. They went after this guy who, in the midst of this occupation of Washington by the National Guard, flung a submarine sandwich at one of these, goons, and was arrested for it. And they tried to put a felony assault charge on him for throwing a sandwich. The grand jury returned a no bill, and she actually refiled the charge as a misdemeanor, which I think is just ridiculous. But this is, of course, our famously inept and intoxicated district attorney for the District of Columbia, Judge Jeanine Pirro. So
just so everybody knows, all the people watching, it is so rare that a grand jury turns down a proposal for an indictment, because all the grand jury hears is what the government wants them to hear. There's the other side of the story is never there. Hearsay is admissible. And according to what I read, that wasn't the only case they've turned down. They've turned down quite a few of these ridiculous charges that people are being brought against.
Hence the legalism. A prosecutor can get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich. So
exactly. Except for this one.
But not a sandwich. But there was another case where someone was interfering with ICE arrests or something in DC. They tried to, 3 times they went before the grand jury for a felony, and they could not get the grand jury to indict. Again, a highly unusual thing. They finally did a misdemeanor against her. She's been told, particularly now that the National Guard and the FBI, she's been told to upgrade every charge you can upgrade to a felony at any time. And the grand jury, thankfully, I mean, it really shows there is some savior there, some checks and balances.
Well, the grand jury is DC residents, right? That's these people who live in DC are probably just laughing their asses off over this.
You know who should pay his legal defense for the misdemeanor case is Subway. And He's the new Jared, and without the pedophilia.
Some of the social media response to this and the puns were just hysterical. My favorite is, he's just a po' boy from a po' family. But anyway, and somebody said the same thing about Subway and said he can't do worse than the last guy.
Brilliant. Allan, who's your schmuck?
I'm going to go with, for many reasons, but particularly this last one, Benjamin Netanyahu, who made a statement saying that the war would have never happened had Trump been in office, which is just really, the real question is more, the war may not have happened if Netanyahu was not in office. And it's just such a shameful, pandering to Trump that, Trump loves to hear that shit. It's just total bullshit. I don't buy that for a minute.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, I've got a couple, and one, since Bill isn't with us, I thought maybe on his behalf. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard for outing a CIA undercover agent's name on X. She did this with a few different people whom she had said she was not only revoking their security clearance, but actually getting rid of. It just so happens that this particular person was the expert on focusing on Russia and Russia's involvement in meddling with national security issues of the United States. So got to wonder about that coincidence. But my schmuck is actually quite, I suppose, time selective, and that is to the coverage of the US Open tennis tournament, which began last Sunday, including all of the announcers and commentators, including former tennis queen Chris Evert, who was just awful. The entire enterprise might as well be the Coco Gauff show, which Coco Gauff, a great American talent on court. But all they do all day long is talk about her, even when she's not playing, even on the days she's not playing. Reporters are there on the practice courts watching her train. And even yesterday, when she was playing, to the point where the pressure is clearly getting to her, she actually started crying courtside at one of the changeovers. And after the first set, she actually had to leave the court for a bathroom break. I'm assuming not just to relieve herself, but just to recenter herself. She actually wept in the post-interview or the post-match interview. And the stupidest of questions: how are you dealing with the pressure, particularly with no sense of irony when the pressure is being put on her by the media coverage, which is over the top? So this is the vicious cycle that comes with the kind of sycophantic and jingoistic coverage that is now really permeated the beloved sport of tennis. So all of you covering the US Open, you are the schmucks of the week. So there you go. Steve.
So people really don't understand that a lot. The same thing happened to Simone Biles, the gymnast.
Yeah.
I don't care how great you are in whatever your sport is, but everybody needs private time. Everybody has to have the ability to pick their nose, and not expect it's going to be on television tomorrow. And these young people, I mean, she's a great player, Coco Gauff, but there's a lot of them that are just as great as her. It's not like she's Babe Ruth back in the 20s where she's hitting 60 home runs and the next person hits 15. She's got to go out there every day and play against another great player. And to have to put up with stuff like that. And the press, I can tell you this, even from coverage of local stuff, when I had a lot of cases, and the press does not give a shit. The media doesn't care. If they're interfering with your personal life, if they're putting things out there that could somehow come back to haunt you, they don't care. All they want, and this is multiplied by a zillion when you're talking about the United States Open. I really feel bad for her. And I kind of wish that her parents, both of whom were D1 athletes, I wish one of her parents would come out and say it. That, look, God damn it, enough's enough already with her. Leave the young lady alone. She's playing for a world championship. Okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's my 2 cents.
No, you're right. And Steve, I mean, it's particularly concentrated here because it's her home country, right. And they're really making a big deal about that as well. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Thank you all for being on for another show, and yet again, happy birthday, Allan. Hope you're going to enjoy the weekend, whatever you've got planned for it. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Bill, wherever you are. Thank you, Barb. Thank you, Nancy. And with the last word, as always, Allan Lengel.
Drive home safely.
Have a great Labor Day weekend, folks. Take care.
Happy